Hello, this is Ben119 and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to carry on with my Twilight Princess HD dungeon design series. So we're up to dungeon number 7, City in the Sky, and we're on part number 2. And I'm about to get the dungeon item, so this is the moment I've been waiting for. And to me the first episode kind of felt like filler, because I wasn't able to talk about this item. And this item is the double claw shot, so we just get a regular claw shot from the chest, and it does seem like a bit of a weird thing just to get a claw shot again, but you can actually use both of them now. So if you're wondering what I mean by that, as you can see here, I am dangling down from the ceiling with my claw shot, and I can pull out another claw shot and then grab another target from where I'm at. And this may seem like a really small change, but it dramatically affects the way you play this game and this dungeon. Like, as you can see right there, I was able to get out of this room because I was able to use both claw shots at once. With one claw shot, I would have never been able to do that. And as you can see, all the claw shot targets in this dungeon, you may have seen claw shot targets in rooms that may have made no sense, but they actually do make sense now. Like right here, I can grab this one, I can pull out my other one, I can grab this target, and I just love the way this dungeon uses this item, and it is one of the best items ever. I think it's just because with like a claw shot target you can put them like almost anywhere in the game. With something like a spinner track or like a Dominion Rod statue, you kind of have to have a certain environment that allows that. But with claw shot targets you can just place them anywhere. Like you could place like a ledge that's slightly too high to climb up and then you just put a claw shot target on the wall above it. Or you could just put a claw shot target like somewhere where there's like death below you, like in this room for example. And you can just use it really well. So right there, I basically claw shotted a switch and I had to dangle down from my first claw shot, and then with my second claw shot I had to claw shot into the gate. And the reason you can't do that with your regular claw shot is because if you let go of the switch, the gate will close and you'll fall to your death. So you have to dangle down with your first claw shot and then use your second claw shot to get in. It's really clever. And we finally got the compass, and also, I'm not sure if you noticed in this room, there were some targets that you can actually Z-target onto, so you're able to Z-target certain claw shot targets. It's a bit of a weird sentence that, but it's pretty cool. And something that is a bit weird that I've actually only just realised is the mini-boss is in basement 3 of the dungeon, which is the lowest point in the dungeon. And the boss is on the top floor, which is the highest point of the dungeon. And that is really strange to me, how the mini-boss is at the lowest point and the boss at the highest. It's quite strange. And right here, this is a really cool instance of the double claw shot. So right here, there's some piranhas, and I guess it slows you down a bit because you have to keep stopping to kill the piranhas. But you basically claw shot underneath the bridge that we were on just. Like, we use this bridge to get across this area, and to get out of this area, we're going underneath the entire bridge to get out. I think it would have been better if there was no piranhas hanging here, because I think it does slow down the experience a bit and it's a bit annoying having to claw shot them. I think you can maybe use your bow before going up there. I think that would have been a better idea. I should have thought to do that, but I think the wind would have affected the arrows, so I don't think it would have made much difference. But I think something that does make this dungeon so amazing is the way it uses the double claw shot so much. So like as soon as you get it, like with some dungeon items, like you kind of use them around the dungeon, but like with the Arbiter's Grounds for example, with the spinner, by the time you get the spinner you've pretty much completed like 80% of the dungeon, and all that's left to do is get the boss key and get like the boss door, and that only takes about 5 minutes, and the boss only takes about like 5 minutes, so you literally only use it for about 10 minutes in the dungeon. With the double claw shot you literally get it like in the first even quarter of the dungeon. Like, we're not even halfway through the dungeon yet, and we've already got the dungeon item, and that's really good because we can use the dungeon item for most of the dungeon. Because what I prefer is when you get the dungeon item, and you use it for most of the dungeon, rather than getting the spinner and only using it for like 5 minutes of the dungeon. Because it just feels a bit weird. But, like, this dungeon is built around the double claw shot, and it makes every single room now, like, more accessible. Like, with this room here, this room just looked like a room that had nothing for it. Like, it looked like you could do nothing in this room because it just looked weird, like the layout of it. Like, there was 2 claw shot targets above us. We could only get onto one of them. The other one looked pointless. I'm not going to show it off again. I think you're supposed to use it to get down here. These claw shot targets looked useless because there was no way you could get by using them. But now they're useful because we can claw shot between them all. And I just love how it uses this item in complicated ways, like straight away. Like right here, we're going through like a massive double claw shot maze of targets and different things, and I just love it. Like, it's so much fun. I highly recommend playing this dungeon once you get to this game. This is like quite close to the end of the game, so it will take you a little while to get to this point. You have to play the other dungeons that I've done, but it is worth doing because it's so much fun. I always look forward to this dungeon every playthrough, and it is a reward getting to this point. It's just great. So you just need to bear in mind as well that when you claw shot onto vines, you can't re-claw shot. That is quite important because you may see vines and you may think, oh, I can just claw shot onto them and then claw shot to something else, but you're not really able to do that unless you're able to climb up and stand still. I'm just claw shotting this piranha. There we go. So we can claw shot this target here, and there's an empty gate, so we're just going to turn around. There's a switch here, so we can claw shot the switch from here as well. So you can claw shot multiple things. I think that's what the game's teaching us at the moment. You're able to kill enemies while you're dangling. You're able to claw shot switches. Something I didn't even mention. When I got to this room, notice how the bridge was destroyed. I was able to claw shot the things above me. There was like these enemy things that were hanging down. They're not really enemies, they're just like these plants. And you're able to claw shot onto them as well. And if you use your iron boots on them, they drop down. I just love how everything is used so well in this dungeon, and I think there is ways this dungeon could be better. And my main problems with this dungeon are actually in one room of the dungeon. And other than that, I don't really have many problems with this dungeon. Also, it keeps you alert, like right here. If you had just jumped forward, you would have gone flying, because it was one of those things in the ground that you have to use your boomerang for. Oh yeah, in this room here, you see choo-choos, right there. I decided to get some choo-choo jelly while I was here because it's an underrated thing. I don't think I ever used the choo-choo jelly. I end up getting all this stuff in bottles. Like, I end up getting like potions and gold choo-choo jelly and fairy tears and all that, and I never even use them because the thing about this game, even though I love this game, I actually love the art style of this game. I know a lot of people don't. I do think this game's a bit easy, and I think not necessarily like puzzle-wise, even though some puzzles are a bit easy. I just think that enemies are too easy in this game. Maybe it's just because I'm getting all the hearts possible at this point, and I know the game well, but even then I think enemies don't do enough damage. And even games like Wind Waker, I feel I have more of a challenge with those kind of games when it comes to combat. Like with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, like I sometimes, like, I'm on low health, even with like loads of hearts I can still get to low health pretty easily. With this game I'm very rarely on low health, especially in the second half of the game. Like in the first half, there has been instances, like in like the first few dungeons, where you can get on low health pretty easily, because you don't have many hearts by that point. But in this dungeon here, it's really hard to even manage that, because you have so many hearts, and all the enemies do so little damage. There's loads of recovery hearts everywhere. But yeah, that enemy right there, you may have recognized him from an earlier dungeon. He was actually in the Forest Temple, which was the first dungeon, and it's just funny because he was actually quite hard in the Forest Temple, because you had the regular sword, you had the regular shield, you didn't have bombs. He was a pretty hard enemy to fight. He was almost like a mini boss, but at this point in the game, as you could see, I literally took him out like super easily. But before, I wouldn't, even though he's not that hard before, it just shows how much Link has grown and how many items you've got and all this upgrades you've got. I know I've watched a video on a review of this game, and this person was saying that how Link's growth, you don't really see his growth visually, because in games like Ocarina of Time, you end up getting like all these items that you can clearly see on Link. Like you've got like tunic upgrades, you've got shield upgrades, sword upgrades, and I know this game doesn't really have that, and it is a bit weird because like after you get the Master Sword in this game, and then when you fight Ganondorf, Link looks exactly the same, and it's a bit weird. But in like Ocarina of Time, for example, like Link has like the mirror shield, he has the red tunic, you may even have the big Goron sword, you have the golden gauntlets, hover boots. But you have all these new items and you just feel really powerful. But in this game, like you don't really get, like you do get these new items obviously, but Link looks the same, and and his Master Sword is like the same as it was. It's really cool still. I'm just going through this part of the dungeon. So this ledge here is really thin, And you just want to be careful. You want to be careful of the enemies as well. You want to try and take out the bats and the piranha plants before you get near them, because it is really easy to get knocked off, and if you get knocked off you have to climb all the way back up. Right here there's some extreme stuff, and this ledge, it looks like you can just climb on it, but you're not able to actually climb up, so you have to dangle across. It's a really cool mechanic. It was used in Wind Waker actually, like a few times. It's not really used much in Twilight Princess, or especially, I don't think it's really ever used for something that's intentional. Like, even this chest here is optional. Like, it's not, they never force you to do that. And I think it's a cool mechanic. I'm not going to argue that. I really like it when the game tries different things. And it rewards you with a heart piece for doing that. And I think I may have mentioned this in the first episode, but this is actually, I think it's the only dungeon that has 3 stamps instead of 2. I'm pretty sure this dungeon actually has 3 stamps. Because I'm not sure why it has 3 stamps. I think maybe when they made the HD version, they just spotted that they wanted 50 stamps and they couldn't find another location for a stamp, so they decided to put an extra one in this dungeon. I'm not complaining. They could have found like an extra place in the field, or they could have put it in one of the grottos in Harrowfield. That would have been fine as well. But yeah, it's just a bit strange that there's 3 instead of 2. But every dungeon has 2 heart pieces. So we're just going to go up to here, and we can lower ourselves down, and there is an armored Lizalfos we got to deal with right here. So obviously just use your skills and fight him. And this Lizalfos, I'm not sure if it's a guaranteed drop every time, but he usually drops 50 rupees, so if you want to get rich fast, then pick it up. Because, yeah, it's 50 whole rupees just for killing a Lizalfos. I'm not sure if you can go back in there and kill him, I don't think he respawns. I'm not sure if that drop is guaranteed, but every time I kill him, he seems to drop 50 rupees. So that's cool. And this is the one dungeon in this room I slightly dislike. Now, even this room here, I do still think it's a really cool room, and I like the idea of this room. I just think that it's not done that well. Now, basically what you have to do in this room is there are these flying things that I was on about. And they basically fly back in 2, and what you have to do is you have to claw shot onto them. But my problem with this room is they fly really, really slow. And if they flew, even if they just flew like a tiny bit faster, it'd make this whole room more fun. Because a lot of this room is just waiting. I like how you have to use the double claw shot between them, and I do like the idea of it. I just don't think it was done very well. So over here, you may have been noticing actually, we've not found any Poes yet. And our first Poe is actually over there, our second Poe is actually only like 5 or 10 minutes away from here. I'll be getting that in the next episode. But we're actually near the end of this episode. We're just going to get to the end of this room and then we'll end the episode. So to get to this Poe here, you want to grab onto this guy as he flies over here. Lower yourself down and turn around and wait until you get close enough to claw shot that one. And as you can see to the left of us, there is a door and a chest, and we're able to get that chest next episode, but from where we are in the room, we're not actually able to get to it. So I guess that's kind of sad. And this is really weird to me. Why is there a tree? There's just a random patch of grass and a tree. Like, why is this even here? And something I also don't get, I think I mentioned in the first episode, is why is there water? There's like a massive pool of water in like the first part of the dungeon. Like, it just seems so strange to me. Like, this whole dungeon is really strange. It's just floating rooms. They're being lifted up by these propellers. There's random claw shot targets everywhere. There's random claw shotable things. There's piranha plants. There's bats. There's these weird things that live in tiles. There's these flying things. Like, none of this dungeon really makes sense. Like, with a dungeon like Snow Peak Ruins, you can actually understand the dungeon. Like, it's actually like a big like mansion that's been abandoned, and it is really cool, and I love how it could function as something else other than a dungeon, but I can't really see what this place could have been. Like, it kind of looks something you might see in Skyward Sword. Like, the remake of Skyward Sword looks really cool. A bit off topic, but I'm looking forward to playing that on Switch when that releases later this year. I may even do videos on it when it comes out, depending on how much I enjoy it. But this dungeon here, I love this dungeon. I absolutely love this dungeon, but I just don't like how it only feels like a dungeon. Like, even with like Arbiter's Grounds, you could see that being some kind of like old temple built hundreds of years ago. But with something like this, it just seems so random and everything's really weird. I just fell down. I just cut back to here because I don't want you to have to watch me go all the way back. So there's a few chests in this room. I'm making sure to get all the chests. But yeah, it's cool. I just think everything's a bit weird, but it is a Zelda game. You can't really complain. Like, Zelda's not really meant to be realistic. But we're at the end of the room finally, and we're going to end the episode in a minute. So thank you so much for watching. If you have made it all the way to this point, please like the video and subscribe if you're new around here. And stay tuned for part number 3.